A pact of lies, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Agreement. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, signed in August 1939, was a non-aggression pact between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. This pact shocked the world. Just years before, Hitler had spoken of destroying communism, and Stalin had condemned Nazi ideology. Yet, here they were, agreeing to a pact. This agreement, however, was a facade, masking the true intentions of both dictators. Hitler sought to secure his eastern border before launching his conquest of Europe. Stalin aimed to buy time to strengthen the Soviet military. The pact included a secret protocol dividing Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. The pact held for nearly 2 years, during which time Hitler conquered much of Europe. Stalin brutally consolidated his control over the Soviet Union and annexed the territories assigned to him. The uneasy alliance between these two totalitarian regimes was destined to crumble. Barbarossa's betrayal. Germany invades the Soviet Union. On June 22, 1941, Hitler shattered the fragile peace established by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. He unleashed Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in history. 3 million German soldiers, along with troops from Italy, Romania, Hungary, and Finland, stormed across the Soviet border. The initial German advance was swift and brutal. Soviet forces, unprepared and poorly led, were overwhelmed. As the invaders pushed deeper, they encountered fierce resistance. The Red Army began to rally, drawing on immense manpower and resources. A clash of titans, key battles and offensives. The Eastern Front quickly became a battle of attrition, a grinding conflict of unimaginable scale and ferocity. Key battles and offensives raged across a vast geographical expanse, shaping the course of the war. In the north, Leningrad came under siege. In the center, Moscow faced the full might of the German war machine. The Battle of Moscow, launched in October 1941, was a turning point in the war. The Germans fought their way to the outskirts of Moscow, but the Red Army, bolstered by Siberian divisions, held firm. In December 1941, the Soviets launched a massive counteroffensive, driving the Wehrmacht back from Moscow. The German Sixth Army was surrounded and destroyed, marking a turning point in the war. German and Soviet forces engaged in brutal street fighting. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers perished. Civilians and soldiers displayed extraordinary courage and determination. Stalingrad, a vital city on the Volga River, became the focal point of the war in 1942. Leningrad faced relentless bombardment and starvation. Over 1 million civilians perished, yet the city refused to break. The sieges of Leningrad and Stalingrad stand as testaments to human resilience. Section 5, The Tide Turns, the Soviet Counteroffensives. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad in February 1943 marked the beginning of the end for the Third Reich. The Red Army, hardened by years of brutal warfare and bolstered by a flood of American and British Lend-Lease aid, went on the offensive. They pushed the Germans back across the vast expanse of the Eastern Front, liberating their occupied territories and inflicting heavy losses on the Wehrmacht. The Battle of Kursk, fought in July 1943, was the largest tank battle in history. It was a decisive Soviet victory. From Kursk onward, they maintained the initiative, driving relentlessly towards Germany. Section 6, Victory in Berlin, the Fall of the Third Reich. The final act of the war in Europe unfolded in the spring of 1945 with the Battle of Berlin. Soviet forces, spearheaded by tanks and artillery, battled their way into the heart of our capital, engaging in fierce street fighting against fanatical Nazi defenders. Hitler, holed up in his underground bunker, refused to countenance surrender. On April 30, 1945, as Soviet troops closed in on his bunker, Hitler committed suicide. Berlin fell to the Red Army on May 2nd. The war in Europe was over. The Eastern Front, the bloodiest theater of World War II, had finally fallen silent. The Soviet Union emerged from the war victorious but devastated, forever scarred by the horrors it had endured.